Good afternoon. We're going to try this again. I started just a few minutes ago, and if you were watching that, I apologize. My service ended. We're going through a time of storms and rain, and it's a little bit chilly here in New Jersey, and our electricity has been blinking in and out. So I think our router just restarted, and we're going to try this again. But thank you so much for joining me for the fourth episode of a nameless show. And so I've batted around a few names and had my wife give me a few eye rolls at some of my suggestions. So maybe you can provide me a few suggestions of your own for the name of the show. But the purpose of the show is to bring encouragement and good news. I'm a pastor, and I've been pastoring now in New Jersey 5 years, and it's a joy to be here. And during this time of coronavirus, I felt like God put it on my heart to maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, put a show on that would bring some encouragement, bring some insight. And today we have an exciting show. A few weeks ago, I did a show with Damian Woody. And so after the show, one of my congregants sent me an email asking me if I would interview him again. And so I'm going to be interviewing him again here in a few minutes. I'm going to be calling him in on Skype as long as our technology will obey us. And but today I wanted to kind of start off again with looking at just kind of the perspective of this whole coronavirus and how difficult it is, and seems to be intensifying for sure. And there's a lot of things that can bring us bad news, a lot of things that can cause us fear. But in some way, if we look for some of the silver linings in all of this, it is, I think, by its very nature, bringing us back to those things that matter in life, and certainly things like family and faith. And I want this time, however much time that we have today, I wanted it to be an encouragement to you. And oftentimes throughout the various shows, I'll have people make a comment and also offer prayers. And so if you have a prayer that you would like to me to pray about, I'll either do it at the time that you send the request in, or at the end of the show. But it'll be a time kind of an interactive time between us. Also, I've looked at a couple times of this thought of tips on getting through. And I've had a number of tips on every episode, and I won't go over them again. But this particular tip I want to share with you is a tip that I first heard as a kid in Western PA. And I saw a couple guys fighting. One of them happened to be one of my brothers with a good friend of his. And the other guy that he was fighting on the ground, it was more of a friendly fight in a sense, but it escalated pretty quick. And this guy, here was the tip that I'm going to give you, is his comment back to my brother was this: don't let fear and common sense stop you. Like, he was like, all right, I've reached a point of, like, you better bring it, and don't let fear and common sense stop you. And sometimes I think that is good advice for us on a positive way to take that next step, because, you know, earlier in some of our tips for the shows, I talked about coming up with some creative ways, coming up with a list of things that you want to focus on, not allowing things to kind of bring you down, seeing the opportunity and the obstacle. You know, we could come up with a list of a lot of different things that would be discouraging and that would bring us down, but to come up with those positive things. But sometimes when we list those things out, it like, oh no, now what do I do, right? Because maybe it's something new that we have to learn, like me learning this technology and trying to establish this platform. It can be a little overwhelming as you're just trying to get your feet under you sometimes. But maybe it's a task in your family. Maybe it's something else that you desire to do. Don't let fear and common sense stop you. Just put some feet on the ground and take that next step of action. And oftentimes when you do that, you begin to worry what other people might think or say or do when you're kind of trying to fulfill that purpose that God has given you in your life. You may go, oh no, I wonder what's going to happen if I do this. Well, For me, I was reminded earlier today of a quote by Mother Teresa that to me is significant. And I'd like to put it up here. And this quote is this: people often are unreasonable, irrational, and self centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend your years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough for some, but give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. I love that quote that she had. It was told that, as I understand, it was written on the wall in her place where she stayed in Calcutta, and it's just a phenomenal perspective. So many times we feel like things get in our way and stop us from doing what we want to do, and the name of that poem is "Do It Anyway." Don't let fear and common sense stop you. Get some momentum. Get some one step after the other, and you will reap the benefit of that. The next segment that I've done is 3-in-1, and the purpose behind hey, Matt Johnson, how you doing? The purpose behind this segment is looking at body, mind, and soul, and where are we during this time of Corona, where a lot of us are stuck in our house. A lot of us are unable to do the things that we normally like to do, like getting out and interacting with people. The 3-in-1 is body, mind, and soul. Where are you being active in each of those areas? I told you last time that one of the things I've been trying to do during this 3.5 weeks or so is eat better, because I on the back side of this, I didn't really want there to be a problem. So because sometimes it's so much easier just to start picking out during times of holding up and and kind of eating anything in sight. And so one of the things I tried to do is kind of watch my diet during this time, and also just being active with some exercise, and proportionate to your age, however much you feel like you can do and should do for your body. Get out there and get some exercise. Take a walk around the property if you can. I know here in New Jersey, some of our state parks have been closed for fear of people not really obeying the social distancing. But find some way of getting outside. Last couple of days here in Jersey have been beautiful. Allow the sun to shine on your skin. It'll just change your perspective. With your mind, what are you studying? What are you reading? Are there projects you're doing? A couple of things that we're doing as a family have been needed done for a while, and so we're doing that. We're playing games together, learning technology, as I mentioned earlier, and then soul. How are you active in your relationship with God? Where are you engaging with God in during this time, and how is it drawing you closer into Him? So the 3-in-1, again, you could just write that down somewhere. 3-in-1, body, mind, and soul. Where are you being active in each of those categories? And if you're a parent out there, try to engage your kids in a way where they're being active as well in each of those areas. Maybe write out a chart every day, body, mind, and soul. Where are they being active? Another segment I have that I'd like to look at is 1,000 words. And this segment here, 1,000 words, is really a segment that is intended to have, hey, Julie from PA, how are you doing? This segment is intended to, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And what I wanted to do with this, and we've had a couple really good submissions here. I would love to have some more. If you have a picture that you have taken during this time that is something that brings encouragement, has a faith element to it that brings encouragement to you, send it to me. Private message me or put it in the comments, and I'll try to use it at a show and try to extend that encouragement that you have received from it, and try to extend that to other people. As we are in Holy Week right now, and I just had a time of prayer and praise with a group from our church last night, and we read Mark 14 together. It was a great experience for us. But the 1,000 words segment here is a picture that's taken from verse 9 of Mark 14, and it is this. In verse 9 of Mark 14, Jesus, in responding to those who were critical of Mary washing his feet with this expensive oil and then her hair, something that was taboo for her hair to be uncovered and untied, but she loved Jesus more than she loved her tradition. And people were critical because she poured out this expensive perfume, and then she kind of broke the cultural protocol. And Jesus said something very, very powerful here. I tell you the truth, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. To me, that's a powerful verse. What she has done will be told in memory of her. That Mary, in this act of worship, is coupled with the gospel. And wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, Mary's name will be mentioned. As I think of this Holy Week, and I think of the close of Lent, I think, okay, God, how is my life an act of worship to you? And what am I willing to do to break the protocol, in a sense, to show reckless abandon and worship for you during this time of Holy Week? And I think it is something that is a powerful lesson for us to see what she has done to him. And also, it's a reminder of our own walk. When I think of my own life and my journey in faith with Christ, I cannot share the good news of the gospel without sharing the name of my Father. I can't share the good news of the gospel without sharing the name of a guy named Paul in Western PA. Some of you who are watching may know him, Paul Sykes. Amazing guy. I could go down a list of people whose names will be told as I share my story, right? As I share the gospel and how I came to faith in Christ. I'm standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before me. And I think of this verse many, many times when I think of 1,000 words. What a beautiful picture of Mary in Mark chapter 14, verse 9. This is also recorded in John 12, of Mary washing Jesus' feet with her hair. And I think it's a great reminder for us during this time of Holy Week. As we think about those who have influenced our life, it kind of leads me into my next segment. And you might think, well, this might be a little bit strange to interview somebody during Holy Week that has made a career of playing football. But I want you to know, I'm going to call him in here now, see if I can get this to work here. I'm going to call my friend Damian Woody in. And Damian is a lover of Christ. As he shared last time, he came to Christ when he was... Hey, Damian, you there?
I'm here. You see me?
Yeah. How you doing, brother? Let me
I'm
make
good, man.
sure.
How you doing?
Good, good. Let me make sure I can get you up here. There we go. There we go. I'm hoping it's coming through clear for everybody. Both Damien and I live about, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles apart from each other, and we both experienced that storm that went through, and we lost electricity, I think, or at least it flickered a little bit, and I certainly lost my Wi-Fi. Damien, I had just kind of done a little bit on 1,000 words and showing a picture of Mary washing Jesus' feet with some expensive perfume in her hair, and just talked about Jesus made a statement that wherever the gospel is preached, her name's going to be mentioned because of her act of worship. And to me, that kind of is a nice segue in a sense into our conversation here, because um, I really kind of want to talk about your early years of football and some of those influencers in your life. After the last time that I interviewed you, I had one of my congregants um, ask me if I could do a second interview with you and talk to you a little bit more about kind of how you got into football and some of those things. But I told those who were watching that it's not really strange that I would link football and Holy Week at the same time, but
Not at all.
yeah, but also because you're a man of faith, and you have wed both of those ideas together, faith and football and family. I know those are three significant words for you. Um, so let me just first ask you how you guys doing over there at the Woody House, and you guys surviving this coronavirus?
We're doing fine. Like everyone else, we're kind of hunkered in, and with the kids doing their online schooling, it's been pretty good. I will say, the older kids, my older kids, the teenagers, they're a little antsy about getting back out there and seeing their friends and so on and so forth. So, but other, I'm stacking up chips here, so that's always a good thing. But we're like everyone else.
That that's good. I heard somebody describe that a while ago, called putting a deposit in the marriage bank.
Yeah, you know what? I equate it to Las Vegas. You just stacking up chips, and at some point, my wife don't know when I'm gonna slide my chips into the table for some. So I'm just for the right time, but I'm just accumulating chips.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Hey, one of my congregants is the one that emailed me and asked me if I would ask you a few questions that kind of,
Mhm.
about how it all began. And uh, if people who don't know, I'm interviewing, and maybe just logging in right now, I'm interviewing Damian Woody, who spent 11, 12 years in the NFL.
12 years.
12
Yep.
years, yeah. And anybody that wants to can kind of Google your name and find out where you were. But just in summary, you were with the Patriots for a number of years, the Lions, and then you finished your career with the Jets. Um, but tell me, kind of, I guess the first question I have for you as it relates to how it all began is, when did you start playing football?
Yeah. So I started playing football in high school. I wasn't. My path was a little bit unconventional. Most people start out playing, Pop Warner, Little League, along those lines. My kids do that, but I didn't do that. I didn't start playing until high school, and that was because my mom didn't want me to play football.
Yeah.
She thought, she felt like her baby was going to get hurt. My dad, tried to, convince her, and she was just too scared. And it wasn't until my grandfather stepped in the picture, because just to give everyone a little background, like my extended family is huge. I have like 30, I think like around 32, 33 first cousins and about 30 male. So
Wow.
we're all, we're a football family. I got cousins who are coaches in the National Football League right now. Um, And so my sophomore year, my grandfather stepped in and said, Nancy, that's my mom's, that was my mom's name. You need to let that boy play football. That boy too big to be sitting out here and not be out there with everyone else. So, he convinced my mom, to allow me to go ahead and play football. And I go out there. And in high school, I wasn't big at all in high school. Like I was like my sophomore year, I was like 5'10".
Hmm.
I was like 5'10". Um, I was like maybe like 200, 210. My sophomore year. But what happened was I had a growth spurt between my sophomore year and my junior year, and I grew like 6 inches and gained like 70 pounds.
Wow.
And yeah, and it like literally transformed everything. My best friend from high school, he in that same summer, he grew 8 inches and gained 60 pounds. So like I don't know what was going on in our area, but for us, we kind of hit the jackpot as far as that's concerned, and that really transformed everything for me as far as my football career. I really jumped on the map my junior year, and then my senior year, I was that's when all the big time programs like noticed me. I was, you know, all American. I was one of the highly most sought after recruits in the country. And, I had all the top programs recruited me, like Alabama's, Miami, Michigan, all those programs. But I ended up leaving state of Virginia and I ended up going to Boston College. And to this day, people always ask, how in the world did you end up in Boston?
Yeah,
And which is pretty, it's pretty strange, particularly at that point in time, a kid from a very rural town in Virginia to end up in Boston was kind of unheard of. But when we took our visit up to Boston, me and my parents, my mom just fell in love with the campus, the school, the coaches. And so these coaches, they know what they're doing. If you can get a hold of the mom,
absolutely.
then your job, their job is done. And that's exactly what happened. And I ended up committing to Boston College.
Oh, that is great. That is great. Uh, Briefly, didn't you tell me a story once about you pulling up, or your dad pulled up in a van, and they kind of pretty much dropped your stuff off, and I said, "That's it. You were kind of on
Yeah,
your own at that
so
point."
so yeah, so like when I had to report to BC because the athletes had to report early for like a summer program and training, and so we rented like a 15 passenger van, and like my grandparents and my parents and like like everybody went, and we took the stuff, we drove up, and at the time the city of Boston has something called the Big Dig. Anyone who's from Boston has heard of it, knows about it. Big Dig was like this huge infrastructure project in Boston, like highway systems, like it was just huge. And so my my grandfather drove, and this man had never been in any type of rush hour traffic like that. So we get up there, and it's rush hour in Boston, people driving crazy, and we finally get to campus, and they literally put my stuff on the curb, and they was like,
Take
"We're
care.
never coming back here again. we love you, but we're never coming back up here again." And they didn't. They never came back up. The only time that I saw like my parents was when we played at Virginia Tech or somewhere like down south. I would see them, but as far as coming to Boston, no way.
No way, huh?
They were not come. No way. They were not coming back and driving anything like that again.
Hey, during your high school career, let's go there first. Is there anybody, whether a coach or somebody who kind of helped motivate you and impacted you? Because I shared about that quote from Mark 14:9 where Jesus said that the picture of Mary washing Jesus' feet said wherever the gospel is will be told, her name will be mentioned along with it. And then I talked about my own life. I can't tell about my story without sharing about my dad or other people in my life who have influenced me in the faith. How is that true for you in football? Were there influencers or people um, who impacted you during this time? Damien, I don't know if I lost you there. I may have lost him. So let me try to give him a call back in just a minute if you're watching. We had just been interviewing Damian Woody, and our connection here in New Jersey is a little bit bad. So I'm going to try to call him back. And if not, we will continue. Um, Here, let me try to get him back on the line here. All right, so we're calling him in. Hey, there you are.
Can you hear me, Lane?
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It just dropped. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but
That's okay. I had been talking about uh, possibly those in your life who have influenced you. Um, you know,
yeah. So I'll go back to my I don't know if people heard what I said, but I'll go back to my high school coach, Ray Long Jr. He was um, he was a Vietnam veteran, real hardcore, um, very tough, very disciplined. My family loved him to death because he was like an extension of them. Just those principles that he learned in the military, in the Marine Corps, he would drill it down on us, and that was huge for me because it just gave me that foundation of you know how to work every single day,
mm,
how to practice, how to train, how to prepare, doing all the little things. And that's what really separates you. That separates everyone, whether you're talking about sports or just anybody in life. It's the little things, it's the little habits that you do. And so between Earl Kinney and Ray Long Jr., they were so instrumental for me in my high school career and kind of springboarding to getting a college scholarship to Boston College.
oh, that's great. That's great. I've I've been preaching that with my son. My youngest son is who's trying his hand at basketball, and I've been telling him the difference between playing and training. And there's something that has to trigger in you that says, okay, now I'm not just going in the gym and throwing the ball around. I have to really train and work hard at that. And there have been people in his life who've helped him along the way in that. Uh, so you chose Boston College, and your
Hmm.
family loved Boston College. How about there? Did you have any coaches, any mentors, anybody there that kind of helped encourage you along your way in your football career? Because there's a lot of guys there in college who have aspirations of going to the next level, and some who have the talent probably who want to go to the next level, but don't make it for one reason or other. What kept you kind of motivated on the right way?
Yeah, man. So there were a couple people that were huge for me at Boston College. My head coach at the time, Dan Henning, he's a he was like a pro. He had been in the NFL for a long time. He was a head coach in the NFL, but for a lot of time he coached under Bill Parcells, and he's a Brooklyn guy, real thick Brooklyn accent. But this dude just so smart, knew so much about the game. And I remember when he came to my house, on a recruiting visit, and how he talked to my parents, and I remember he told my mom, well, he told both my mom and my dad at the time. He said, "Your son is in 3 years. Your son will be going pro."
Hmm.
And it wasn't even in my thoughts about going pro. Like I was just such a novice to the game of football. Like I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking about the fact that that I got a scholarship offer, from all colleges, and I just wanted to enjoy the process. But I mean, he just came in. He just told me, he's like, "Listen, you're in trouble with your, and I want to make sure that I'm going to do everything that I would with my own children to make sure I prepare him for the next step." Truly did,
Wow.
and he was hard on me. He was tough. Like if I stepped out of line, boy, he used to 5 o'clock in the morning, me run this, like all these different type of things, and he was huge. And my offensive line coach, who only had my freshman year, and I still talk to this day, he was he was like a mentor. He was like a father figure for me at school. Um, Same guy, very disciplined. Um, if I stepped out of line, he made sure he reared me back in. He would even call my parents.
Really?
Like he would make sure that, listen, I would not hesitate to call your parents if I feel like you're not, stepping up to the level I know you're capable of.
Yeah.
And man, those two guys were, it's just great when you have great people in your life that want the best for you, that push beyond what you doing.
Yeah.
Because there were times where I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. And they were like, no, you got to tap into a place that you didn't even know about.
That's right.
And that's how you truly going to unlock all that potential that you have. And that's what they did.
Hmm.
Just by just grinding on me every single day, I started recognizing things about me I didn't even know I had in me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those two guys were great.
Yeah. Boy, that is so true in every walk of life. I think if we need people around us who speak into us and that we can trust, right? It's iron sharpening iron that draws something out of us that we don't even know we have ourselves. I think that's really great. Damien, you met a congregant of ours, I don't know, a year or so ago, who actually grew up. I think he's a little older than you, but he grew up a town or so away from you, watching you in high school and the news clippings, and he fully expected you to be going to what, Virginia Tech? I don't know. Was it University of Virginia? Okay. Yeah. 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 Boy, that's good. It was kind of neat for the congregant to walk across the aisle at church and go, "Boy, I've rooted for you and never had a chance to meet you, so now I get a chance to shake your hand." So it's kind of cool. Um, so you chose Boston College. We have the draft coming up here in just a few weeks. A completely different type of draft than probably ever before, or maybe it's one of the original kind of drafts where there were phone calls and people calling in and writing on cards and stuff. But um, what was it like? So Dan Henney, right, was the one that said to your parents, he will be in the NFL in 3 years." Um, what was that like then, the night of the draft, and you were drafted 17 overall in the first round, um, to see that realized? Yeah, we may have lost Damien again. Damien, are you still there? All right, let's see if we can get him back in again to finish the conversation. Um, we'll give it just a minute. I apologize. I think I got a note from a friend that said his audio wasn't working real good. So hopefully we can get him back here and spend a few more minutes with Damien. Um, for those that might not be in the Chester, New Jersey area, we've had some storms come through and it's affected our connection, our Wi-Fi. And so thanks so much for hanging in for this interview. I have just a couple more questions for him, and so let's try him again. Um, if not, we'll proceed, and I'll catch up with him for another time. Maybe do another interview with him when we get a little better connection. But thanks so much for your patience. Um, let's try to call him again here. Hey, Damien.
Yeah,
Hey, let's try it again. Sorry about that. I don't know. We must
okay.
have a bad connection there. Um,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I have no idea. But um, I, how about us? I know you asked about the draft and the experience.
yeah.
So I'll just take it from. I'll just take it from there. Um, so the draft was wonderful. The whole experience was wonderful. I got invited to New York because the draft at the time was at New York City Radio Music City Hall.
Okay.
But I turned it down because I wanted to be home in Virginia, to be around family, friends. So I had a draft party at my aunt's house. We had a barbecue. We had the Richmond TV stations there. My friends from BC came down to celebrate with me, and it was just cool, man. It was cool. Anyone that's watched the draft knows that even in the first round, you mentioned I got picked 17th overall. Even in the first round, that's a long time. It's hours.
Mm,
Because each pick is, I think it's 10 minutes, whatever it is, with each pick. So you're still, even though I got picked early, you still had to wait hours before your name. And so for me, I'm sitting there, we're enjoying each other's company. And then right at 17, there was a trade. The Seattle Seahawks were scheduled to pick at 17, and the New England Patriots traded up with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the funny thing was my last visit, because the way it works, the whole draft process works, is each team is allotted a certain amount of visits from draft eligible players. And so my last visit before the draft was with the New England Patriots.
okay.
And that was the team that I spent the longest amount of time with. And so the Patriots traded up with the Seattle Seahawks. And so, you know, I just told everybody, okay, everybody be quiet. Like, okay, it might be happening right now. Um, and then lo and behold, right after I said that, I got a call on my cell phone,
Oh
and
wow.
it was from the owner, Robert Kraft. So as it was playing out on TV, I'm talking to Robert Kraft, and he's telling me, he's like, "You ready to come to New England?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "Heck yeah!" I'm like, you've totally changed my life right now. And so, and then Pete Carroll, who was the head coach in New England at the time, he got on the phone and we talked for a while, and he just told me how excited he was, and how I need to be ready to go to work because you know they told me you're going to be day one starter. We're not going to mess around and have you out there for a long time trying to earn a spot. He was like, no, we're going to put you in day one, and we expect you to play at a high level.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, we're watching on ESPN, and to hear Chris Berman um, just say your name, the whole house just
Wow.
exploded.
Wow. That's
And
pretty cool.
yeah, so I'm hugging, my mom, my dad. Cole was right beside me at the time, and she's crying, I'm crying, we're hugging each other, um, and then it was just chaos,
That's so
and the TV cameras was recording everything, and then I got a chance to talk to them, for a lot, and man, it really was a game changer. we actually went to the University of Virginia for a concert. We went to a concert, and then the next, like 6 o'clock in the morning, I caught a flight to Boston for my interview with the New England Patriots. So it was a whirlwind. It was a crazy process, but when it all when it all plays out the way that you expect it,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
Wow, that's special. That is special. I have a question that I don't know if anybody's ever asked you. I hope I'm the first one to ask you this, but you mentioned it earlier, and I was like, I, that was so that you're 1999, right? The draft.
Yes.
Yeah. So I remember where I was in 1999 and the type of phone I was using in 1999. But you said they called you on your cell phone. So what kind of cell phone did you have in 1999?
I had a flip phone.
Oh, you did, yeah.
I had a flip phone. Yeah, I had a flip phone. I got my agent me a I believe either was Sprint or Singular
Oh,
at the
yeah. I
time.
remember saying,
So yeah, so I got a sponsorship deal, and so I had a flip phone. So yeah, man, I got a call, and that was all she wrote.
that's pretty cool. All
Yeah.
right, just a couple more. I know. You probably want to get on back to your family there. Um, so in the NFL, you know, was it your after your first year that Belichick came in? So it was your second year he came in?
My Remember earlier when we were talking how I said that my college those my two college coaches were pushing me to 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 a point where I didn't even know that I could even go. Well, Bill Belichick took it to a whole different extreme. I remember my first training camp under Coach Belichick, and I every day I thought to myself, I'm not going to make it.
Hmm.
I'm not going to. It was by far the toughest event that I ever had to go through. It
Wow.
was every day we would go through the day, and at night we would have night meetings, and every day someone was retiring.
Really?
Yeah, it was so tough. It was not only physically exhausting, but mentally. He didn't let his foot off the gas. There were no days off. He literally tried to break us down to
Hmm.
see basically try to weed out guys. Who can I count on?
Yeah.
Who I can't count on? And that was the real purpose of his first year was to just grind us down into the ground and then build us back up.
Yeah.
And it was all for a purpose. And I will say, I've never played under a coach as smart, as intelligent. I think the guy's a genius. Taught me more about the game of football than anyone I've ever been around.
Hmm.
Um, and he is the greatest coach in team sports.
Wow.
Period.
Wow.
That's just my belief. Is I've lived it. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
And like even the principles that he taught us, I carry over into real life. Even to this day, the things he taught us in the game of football, they just parallel with life in so many different ways. And I had a chance to talk with him last season, and I just told him like, listen, I'm forever indebted to you
Hmm.
for what you did as far as helping me grow as a man.
Yeah. Yeah. Just his one thing I can appreciate about him from a fan standpoint is just it seems like he knows like the even the minutia of the rule book. I got to see recently an interview that Peyton Manning had with Tom Brady, and they were just talking, and it was on the ESPN Plus. I can't remember Peyton Manning's show, but they were talking about that tuck rule that happened against the Raiders,
Mm-hmm.
and Brady said after that was over, he thought the game was done, and he walked to the sideline, and the first person it shows, there's a video of him interacting with Belichick, and Belichick says, "Hang on, I think this could be a tuck rule issue," and I mean he knew that right there, and in the toughness of that moment, he knew that, which is interesting about him. Damien, are you still there? I think I lost him. I'll try him one more time. I have one more question to ask him that I think was probably the question I should have asked him a while ago as it relates to people influencing him in his life. We'll try this one more time, and then I'll wrap things up here. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Let's try to get him back on. So as I click around here a little bit, and trying to reconnect with Damien, uh, wherever you are, however you're watching this, remember that this is Holy Week, and I pray that you're finding some time to reconnect with faith and family during this time, and may it draw you into a greater understanding of what Christ went through for us. All right, let me try calling him back here, and I'll just ask him one more question. All right, maybe it didn't go through. Damien, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There he is. Hey, I
I can hear you.
apologize. I
Okay.
apologize for this. I could ask you a ton of questions, and you've been so kind to answer them and work through all the technology issues and Wi-Fi issues.
Oh, you man, this. I don't mind doing this at all.
Oh, good, good. One of the questions I had written down on my list, there's a few questions I just asked you off the top of my head, but one of the questions I had written down off my list is about another influence and impact for you while you were at the Patriots, I believe. But I think where we got cut off when I was talking about Belichick knowing the minutia of the rules and how he knew in that tuck rule situation with against the Raiders, Brady went over feeling like it was all over, and Belichick knew it. He goes, I really think this is going to be a tuck roll issue, and they're going to call that. And it's like, how would in the it's one thing to know something, but then in the heat of the game to pull it out, and to know how to pull it out, and that's probably what separates him from everybody else, I think.
Oh, absolutely. If anyone were to go back and watch that play, um, I'm literally the guy that jumps on top of the Raiders guy who recovered the fumble.
Really.
And so, yeah. And so as I'm getting up and I'm walking off the field, I'm thinking game is over.
Mm,
Raiders won. Then all of a sudden, like you just heard like these whispers and things, and I looked at the sideline and I looked at Bill, and Bill was talking to the coaches, and the coaches had like this surprised look on their face, and then next thing you know, Walt Anderson, who was the referee at the time, that's when he talked about, he brought about the tuck rule.
mm,
And once that happened, man, it was, obviously it changed like the course of history
yeah.
for, for a franchise, man. And, that's an event that I will always be a part of. And it's always going to be an NFL lure. And that
Sure.
rule doesn't even exist anymore.
No, it's
Doesn't even exist, but it springboarded a dynasty.
yeah, it did. It did. It's in the lure of the NFL, much like the immaculate reception. I saw a show on that the other day. It was just powerful. Seeing the Raiders and the Steelers going back even today, back and forth over whether that was a catch or not. Here's
The Raiders have been on the bad end of a couple of those
Yes, they
big
have
big
against you
plays.
guys,
Yeah.
against the Steelers. Yeah. Um, the one question I really wanted to ask you, because if I remember right, you were telling me about somebody in the NFL at that level that helped you as a mentor, as spiritual leader. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, his name is Anthony Pleasant. He was he came in uh, my second year, Bill Belichick's first year. He was kind of like at the end of his career. I'm young, and so what happens is a lot of times when coaches come in, they're trying to install their program, their culture. They bring in guys who've been a part of their culture environment to help with their team. And Anthony Pleasant, who's been he was with Bill Belichick when Bill Belichick was a coach in Cleveland. He was with him with the Browns, and then when Bill Belichick was with the New York Jets, played with the Jets, and so Anthony Pleasant he's a very, very spiritual man, very grounded, very rooted in the Bible. And, he was the one that got Bible study started really in earnest in New England.
Hmm.
And so it turned into a big thing. And he really wrapped his arms around me. I don't know why, but he did. And he would always tell me just little things that just stuck with me, not only during that time, but throughout the years. Like I always called him Doc.
Hmm.
What up, Doc? Every time I see him in the hallway or wherever, what up, Doc? And he would always, the one thing he always used to tell me was, be careful what you feed your soul.
Ooh, yeah.
Be careful what you feed your
Hmm.
soul. And he would always just tell me, he said he would be like, because he would call me Doc too. Hey, Doc, what you listening to? I'm listening to R&B, whatever, or sometimes I'm listening to stuff that maybe I shouldn't be listening to. And he always say, garbage in, garbage out.
Wow.
And he would
Wow.
just look, and he always say, garbage in, garbage out. He said, because whatever you feed your soul, that's what you would eventually become.
Hmm.
And it's totally true. It totally is. And he always used to throw those type of nuggets at me all the time. And even when he left New England, and when we weren't teammates anymore, we still talked. We still visited, each other. Even when he retired, and I'm still playing, he would come visit
Wow.
and just drop these jewels and stuff like that. So this is a man of God, a strong man of faith. I talk to him all the time. I
Wow.
still seek his counsel to this day,
Hmm.
because I just find that he has such a wealth of knowledge, and he was huge for me at the beginning of my career.
Wow. That's so great. I'd like to meet that guy someday. Be careful what you
Absolutely,
feed your soul. That's a powerful statement right there.
be be careful what you feed your soul.
Hey, Damien, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go. Um, pray a blessing over your family, and that this Holy Week will be a special time for you and your family. Thank you for agreeing to read tomorrow night for our online service, and looking forward to hearing that. And God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh man, I had a great time, man. I appreciate us doing this.
I'm sure that other people might be going, "Hey, what about part three?" Um, maybe down the
Hey,
road.
well, anytime, man. I'm available.
Hey, God bless you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, no problem. You too.
Bye bye.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for hanging in there. And let me go back to my main screen. That's not the right one. There we go. Hopefully that blessed you, and I'm hoping that the audio came through fine. I know the video might be messed up a little bit with our connection, but it just shows you in Damien's life, um, those in his life. I mean, there were at least 5 or 6 different men in his life who helped get him to where he was at the pinnacle of his career. And a number of guys are still feeding into him and caring about him. And so that is really nice to know. One nice thing about talking with Damien, and he said, Layne, he said, this stuff is happening all throughout every club in the NFL. He said, so be praying for those mentors who are reaching out and providing a voice for guys who need stability at a critical time in their life, and who need guidance in the faith at a critical time in their life. So that is just such a great thing. And he is he is he's a follower of Christ, and he allows that to come through in his own life, and as he leads his family. He's a great guy. So Damien, thanks so much for spending some time with us. I'd like to just close by, I was going to do a Bible study, a little bit of a Bible study on Holy Week, but I want to just share really another picture with you as you consider, today is Maundy, Thursday, and it's the time typically where Jesus instituted the Last Supper and had the Last Supper with his disciples. And later in John chapter 13 talks about Jesus washing the disciples' feet, and just a powerful passage of humility. Earlier we talked about Mary washing Jesus's feet and did the act of a servant, but even went further by washing his feet with her hair. And here in John 13, Jesus washes his disciples' feet, and what an amazing picture of humility. And then just all the suffering that Christ would endure for you and for me. It began this night on Maundy, Thursday night, and Jesus taking the bread and taking the cup and sharing with his disciples the significance of that and what he would offer his body and his blood up for, so that we could come to know the Father. An amazing sacrifice, an amazing sacrifice for you and for me during this Holy Week. But one picture in particular I want to show you, so that maybe as you are going through tonight and tomorrow and on into Sunday morning, that this picture will be something that will be kind of stuck in your mind a little bit. And then I'm going to share a verse with that, and then we'll close here. The picture is this, of Christ on the cross. And you can see the crowd, you can see the criminals on either side, and to me it gets me deep down. One of those pictures that you get that you feel pretty deeply because of what Christ endured for us. And we know in this crowd that's depicted here, we have people who are cheering his death. We have people who are mourning his death, people who really don't care, people who just think he's another criminal. But something significant happened on this, what would be depicted, I guess, as Good Friday. And there's a verse that I think is one of those verses that we need to put to memory, because it has so many correlations in our life as putting Christ first and foremost in our life. And the verse is this. It says, if I am lifted up from the earth, this is John 12:32. If I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw everyone to myself. If I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw everyone to myself. When he is saying this in John 12, he is indicating his death, which now you see the picture of. And to me, this is an amazing testament of the gospel, right? It's not just an indication of the way he would die, but it's an amazing testament of the gospel as it should be lived out in our lives. And as we live our life, in really every aspect of it is elevating Jesus higher than ourselves. And when Jesus is elevated high, he will draw people to himself. When we elevate ourselves above him, that's when we get into trouble. And may that never be on this Holy Week. We're wrapping up Lent, and Lent is a time to, as I mentioned earlier, review, repent, and renew. And so I pray that during this time of Lent that you can gather your family around you. It's Thursday night, and then tomorrow, Friday, we're going to have an online service at 7 p.m. If you want to go to my YouTube account, just look at Layne Mershimer, or my Facebook account. You can go to mine or the church's account. And so our service on Good Friday is going to start at 7 p.m. And it's a time for you to interact with the events of Good Friday. And we'll have some readings. We'll have communion during that time as well. But tonight, maybe in anticipation of that, it would be really nice if you gathered your family around and spent some time looking at either Mark 14, which might be, let's just leave it there. So the second gospel in the New Testament, Mark 14, spend some time as a family just reading through that. Take turns, have everybody read that can read, and then just stop for a little bit and talk, and then continue reading until you finish the whole chapter. To me, that helps set your mind for Good Friday and Saturday and Sunday in anticipation of the resurrection. Just as I wrap things up, I will say again, Good Friday service at 7 p.m. At 8 p.m., the Sight and Sound Theater is giving away an online show called Jesus, and I think you get it by I think it's being broadcast through TBN network. And so if you want to see that and you can't find the link anywhere, private message me or let me know, and I'll make sure that you get that link. It's a great offer. Sight and Sound Theater in Lancaster, PA, do an amazing job. Everything they do is great. So this one was called Jesus, and it's at 8 p.m. on Friday. And then Sunday morning, this is something I really want to broadcast. Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, our church, along with Pastor Chris at the Presbyterian Church, Father Nick at St. Lawrence, and I think maybe Margaret over at the Lutheran Church, we are all joining in, ringing our bells at 10 o'clock for 10 minutes. And this is an act of solidarity on the Resurrection Sunday. And so, as I understand it, this has gone out to all the different mayors of Morris County. And I know Mendham is going to be participating in this as well. And so if you hear bells ringing on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, that's what it's about. Churches in solidarity celebrating the resurrection together. It's going to be something powerful. I'm hoping to live stream that at least for a part of that, so you can kind of get a feel of what those bells will sound like, and also what it might sound like in hearing the echo of Pastor Chris's church bells at the same time. To me, that would be to me an amazing witness of the resurrection. And then our online service on Sunday morning will start at 10:30. I pray God's blessing over you during this Holy Week, and just ask that you would spend some time engaging with God in prayer and in Bible study and faith with one another. And it's a great time to draw you in closer to the Lord. I see the Fridleys are watching. God bless you, Bill and Donna. Sure love you guys. Will you join me in prayer as we wrap this thing up? Father God, thank you so much for your love for us. God, I thank you for the way you continue to reach out and change our lives. Thank you for your grace that you give us every day. Thank you for your mercy. God, we thank you so much for sending Jesus. God, we thank you that he submitted his wishes to the Father's will. And when he said, nevertheless, not what I want, but what you want. And God, this week is a time of drawing us closer into you. I pray, Father, it would also be a time when we gather our families around us, and together we journey this Via Dolorosa, this way of suffering that you took, that would draw us to an amazing Resurrection Sunday when we celebrate the third day, Jesus coming back to life again. God, I pray that you would breathe resurrection power in each one of us. We love you today. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. God bless you on your day, and I pray that you would have an opportunity, maybe through a phone call, through a conversation with a neighbor. Again, it's social distance, just to express to them appreciation for who they are. As I've mentioned before, kindness is in high demand, and during this time in our culture, so have an opportunity to show kindness and share with somebody the love of Christ. God bless you. Have a great day.